Good afternoon from the farmer's garden. I'm one of the farmers and I'm out working on fence right now. So today we have updated our electric fence. We have switched from a solar charger to a plug-in charger. This one is also made to cover quite a bit more fence, and that will allow us to use it as we grow. So currently we don't have power poles set yet for our well power and the future cooler or pack house area, but we've got an extension cord run right now. Not ideal, but it'll work. But as we plugged it in, we noticed something, and so the kids and I are working to try to get repair done on the fence today. All right, so if you have electric fence, I recommend this. I am not paid by them to say that, but I've used these for a long time. Other fence chargers are fine and great. This is the best one that I've ever used. Highly recommend spending money on these. So when we plugged in our fence, it shows that we are not real hot, and that explains why the deer have been just crawling in and out. Although we have also been testing recently and it has been warmer than this, but it's saying not real hot. So if we come down to this line, now it shows that we have a fairly significant drop in the fence. And what that means is it is pulling electricity somewhere other than just pulsing it through these wires. So we've already ridden on the gator all the way down that side as far as we could, and then walked some through the woods. And what we found is that these goofy deer trying to crawl in and out have pulled one of the wires loose. Like I said, our fence has been running about twice as hot, which is still not hot enough for deer, but it's hotter than what it is right now. So we're going to go fix that part real quick. I'm going to unplug this. There's no good way to work on fence with it still pulsing unless you just are some sort of psychopath that can handle electricity. So I'm going to unplug this and we'll go down there and check that part. Today's YouTube video is brought to you by Momo's Gator. I am so bad about stealing Momo's Gator and using it when we're out here. It's just so much easier than walking up down the hills, especially when I'm pulling supplies around with me. The kiddos are also with me today. They're going to help us out. We're going to go see if we can get this fence up and hot. All right, we believe this is part of our problem. Might not be the only problem. We may have more to track down. But you can see something has come through and shoved our fence out of its clips. It's also tangled in this beautyberry bush. So we're going to try to put it back in its clip, which is sometimes a challenge after it's pulled tight. Oh, not pulled that tight, is it? All right, so that's clipped again. All right, so now we're going to go back, plug the fence back in and see if it's still showing a problem. And I suspect it will be, but maybe not as bad now. All right, we are still showing a fairly significant drop. That's only about half the fence that we've checked so far. So I'm going to turn it back off. I'm going to go ahead and walk the rest of the fence and see if I can figure out where the issue is. The gator is nice, but sometimes with fencing you just have to get boots on the ground. So I'm going to actually walk the remaining piece of the fence. I've got it turned off right now. Normally I would have it on so that I can test and track. But this way I don't have to keep walking back and forth because I don't have Brandon or anybody up there that I can call and plug and unplug to let me fix things. So electric fence is generally less expensive initially, but it is significantly more maintenance than traditional fencing supplies. For example, barbed wire, even the cheap stuff, by the time you do posts and everything else, a lot of times it's 50 cents a foot or more to install it yourself. If you're paying somebody, it can get pretty high. It can get pretty high. So it's less expensive to put in the electric fence, but it is significantly more maintenance to use the electric fence. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm just checking for debris on the line, limbs down, things like that. We've got a whole lot of weeds under it, but I wouldn't think that would be causing this sort of drop. So I'm just going to check it and see what I find. I'm still stomping fences. We have fairly significant weed pressure under the fence in some places. So it looks like we do need to come in and spray fence lines. Spraying your fence lines, both electrical and traditional fences, spraying them is a good way to help expand the life of your fence, to keep the vines and things from growing on them. Some areas are like this, and I'm like, oh, that's probably not enough to bother us. And then some areas, there's quite a bit of stuff growing under the fence. So that might be our issue, maybe. I haven't found anything major. I found one little tiny stick on it. I haven't found anything that makes me go, oh, yep, that's our problem right there. So I don't know. All right, I feel like I just don't know what I'm doing, y'all. I have completely disconnected all the wires because I have checked and checked, and I can't find anything on the fence besides the grass. So I've disconnected. This should be the hot side, and it's showing a drop, a huge drop right out, okay? That shouldn't happen, I don't think. And this should be the ground, which means it shouldn't have anything, and it is also showing a drop. So I'm super confused. Okay, ground is put in properly. Ground still shows a drop. This side is now hotter, but showing nearly an 80 amp drop. So not showing a drop, but showing something there. Nope, now it shows a drop. Okay, like 2 hours later, hour and a half later, I've done some troubleshooting. I asked my resident electrician, Pappy. We looked through our manual. The other charger was bad. It was just not working correctly. So I now have a new one here, and I'm going to test it and see if this one is working. So it's plugged in. You can hear it popping. The last one was making an extra sound. It was making the snap and then another sound too. So not hearing that is making me feel better about this. Okay, that's without the ground hooked up. That's still not what I want to see, but let me hook up the ground and try. Okay, that's with the ground connected. Well, we do now have 5,000 volts, which is one thing it told us before. It said if you didn't have 5,000 volts, that it wasn't working. I'm gonna have to keep monkeying with it, see if I can figure it out. All right, we're now hooked to ground and fence. Right here, it is saying basically 3,000 volts. And here it is saying the exact same thing it said before about a drop, which doesn't make sense because there's no drop. As soon as it leaves, okay, that drop is not in that jumper. Okay, this is the annoying thing. I'm telling y'all, electric fence is way, way more maintenance than traditional fencing. It's cheaper at the start, but it is a lot more trouble once you're going on it. Okay. All right, I really don't know what I'm looking at. Brandon's standing here. He doesn't know what he's looking at. For some reason, we are picking up a pulse in our ground on the new charger, which should not happen. The new charger is not putting out like it should. It makes no sense. So this end should not actually be hot at all. This end should, according to the manuals and everything, this end should be a minimum of 5,000 volts, which would be this thing showing 5 down here, which we got to once, but we can't get it again, and we shouldn't have this drop at all. And I know it's not dropping like that in this wire. Like, that's a foot of wire. We are not dropping like that there. So I have no idea what's happening. It's 5 o'clock. We're really going to have to call it for the day and get home and feed animals and supper and all those things. Here's a new one for you. Okay, you can see that is supposed to be the fence side. The red is supposed to be the hot side. This is supposed to be the ground side. It even says that. Do you see what I see? Do you not see what I don't see? Do you see a problem here? Okay. I really don't like to play the victim game, but y'all, we have so much trouble with quality of products these days, and they're just getting more and more expensive, and this is annoying. Guess where the power is? Guess where the power's not supposed to be? That's that. We keep saying we're going to have to stop and just go home, but now it's just making me mad. We really are going to have to stop and go home. Okay, what we're going to try for right now is swapping the two. Clearly we have it hooked up correctly based on the way they labeled their own equipment. But we are going to try swapping it. Hey, you could just take, oh, never mind. We're going to try swapping the wires and see what that does. That's not how it should work, but we'll see. This was supposed to be our easy chore for the day. It was supposed to be a matter of pounding a ground rod in, putting up this wire. This has taken all day. It has stopped us from doing huge other chores that we were supposed to get done. We tend to overschedule our days anyway, but this is ridiculous. I hate it when this happens. All right, so we're swapping on Brandon's doing the wiring right now. He's swapping which one is hooked up where, and then we'll test them again. Okay, it is hooked up backwards now. It'll either work or it'll blow up, I guess. Okay, so this was the ground before. Still saying it's not working. This is the ground now. Still saying it's working. Fence is the same. Arrgh. Arrgh. So, I started to scrap this video because it doesn't end productively. But this is the sort of thing we actually deal with around here. So, this charger is doing exactly what the last one was doing. It has the exact same issues that we took the last one back for. We're going to let Pappy look at this one too and see if he can figure out if it's operator error or what. But I think we're going to end up just going with a different brand because we can't keep swapping it out. We need it working. I hope you learned that barbed wire is easier, if not cheaper. Y'all be sure and come back when you can stay longer.